Hello, today's lesson is 9-5. It's called Locating Fractions on the Number Line. You've already learned how to write whole numbers on a number line. Today you will learn how to write fractions on number lines. When have you or someone in your family used a cup like this? Where do you see a number line on this cup? Students told lots of stories about baking things with their families, and we talked about how there is a number line with fractions going up and down on the cup. Fold one paper strip in half. I did give the students 2 blue paper strips like you see on the screen. This strip is one whole unit. What numbers can we write to show this? What could we write to show that the whole paper is equal to one whole? We could write 0 on the left and 1 on the right. What fraction goes here right in the middle? Students knew it was 1/2. Now get your second paper strip, fold it in half like the first one and write 0 and 1, so we made it look like the first one. But then we did something different. We folded it in half again. When we did that, we ended up with 3 fold lines and 4 equal sections. We talked about what fractions go on each of those fold lines. 1/4, 2/4, and 3/4 go on those fold lines. How did we know what fractions to write on the lines? We knew because the strip had been broken into 4 equal parts. So we knew that the denominator would be 4 and would stay 4 for the whole thing. And then we were just counting 1, 2, 3 at the top. People ask me why we didn't put 4/4, and it's because the number 1 is the same as 4/4. We folded paper strips to match 2 of these lines. Which 2? We compared them to the morning math. We saw that we had done something similar to A and B. If you folded your second paper in half again, so the one that we folded to match line B, would it match line C or D? We tried it. We found out that when we folded it again, it matched line D. Then we thought about what we would label the fractions for line C. So if you look at C, you have a line there that's been broken into 5 equal parts. So you would call them fifths. The denominator would stay 5 for the whole line. Here's what it would look like. Oops, I took it off. It would look like 0 and then 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, and the last line would say 1, which is another name for 5/5. Hey, there it is. Okay. Somebody was wondering, is 1/2 the same as 2/4? Thought carefully about this, and we decided yes, 1/2 is equal to 2/4. Really, it's just 2 names for the same number, and I'll show you what those look like. On that morning math, you can see that 1/2 at the top of the paper lines up with the same place where 2/4 is. There's nothing where the fifths are on line C, but down on line D, 4/8 is also the same thing as 1/2 or 2/4. They're all different names for the same number. Here's that pretty one we looked at a couple weeks ago, and I love this because now you can really see equivalent fractions, numbers that mean the same thing. Here's the 1/2 line. There's nothing for the thirds that is the same as 1/2. But here, after 1, 2/4, 2/4 is the same as 1/2. 3/6 is the same as 1/2. 4/8 is the same. See how that line just matches all the way up? So it's kind of cool to see those equivalent fractions, and we'll talk more about that this week. Write the missing fractions or mixed numbers on for each number line. Pause the video if you need to figure this out, please. Excuse me. After 1/4, since we're counting by fourths, we could say 2/4 or we could say 1/2. They do mean the same thing. Then 3/4 and then 1 whole, also known as 4/4. How about this one? Now this is extra tricky because you have a whole number, 1. So what would be a number halfway between 1 and 2? Let's see. You're counting by halves. So if you start here, 0, half, 1, we would say 1 and 1/2 for this. 2, then if I kept going, 2 and 1/2, 3, 3 and 1/2, 4, 4 and 1/2, 5, 5 and 1/2, 6. You start to see the pattern there. Name a fraction between 0 and 1. There's lots and lots of correct answers. All of those ones I wrote there are ones we usually think of, and then I put the little girl in thinking of a funny one. 17/18. It doesn't seem like it's between 0 and 1, but it is between 0 and 1. The number the little girl's thinking of is just a little bit smaller than 1. It is 17 out of 18 parts, so it's close to 1 but not as big as 1. What mixed number would come after 2 and 1/4 on a number line that was divided into fourths? 2 and 1/4 plus another 1/4 would be 2 and 2/4, also known as 2 1/2. Copy the lines from B onto E. Don't write any fractions yet. I'm still talking about the 2 and 1/4 question. So copy that down. And then I wanted to show you how we could count by 1/4. We'd start at 2, which is kind of weird. Usually on number lines we start at 0, but we have done that before. We start at 2, and then the next number is 2 and 1/4. And then the following number is 2 and 2/4, or 2 1/2. And then think about what comes after that. So 2, 2 and 1/4, 2 and 2/4, 2 and 3/4, and then 3. We're still counting from one whole number to the next whole number. Up on line B we counted from 0 to 1. Here we're counting from 2 to 3. We're not using any more numbers. We're not breaking it into any smaller fractions. It's just a different part of the same number line there, really. Okay, Chris says that 1 and 1/4 comes after 1 1/2 on a number line. Do you agree? Why or why not? Pause the video if you need to think about it. No, we do not agree. 1/4 is smaller than 1/2, so 1 and 1/4 would come before, not after, 1 and 1/2 on a number line. Are you ready to try the number 1 most difficult question on the pretest a couple of weeks ago? The question that stumped every single student in this class just 2 weeks ago? Okay, then here it comes. 4 friends guess the length in inches of a Guiana-striped scorpion. The number line shows their guesses. Ty's guess was correct. Which number did Ty guess? Pause the video if you need to. Here we're again counting by fourths. So you just have to count along until you reach Ty's red diamond there. Here it is filled in. You kind of start to see the pattern if you say it out loud. 0, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 1. And 1, of course, is the same as 4/4. 1 and 1/4, 1 and 2/4, 1 and 3/4, 2, which is also the same as 1 plus 4/4, which is 2. 2 and 1/4, 2 and 2/4, 2 and 3/4, and then 3. So Ty is at 2 and 2/4, or you could say 2 1/2. Both are the same thing. Okay, I just wanted to remind students to fill in a list of numbers for these first questions. And that was it for today.